Alright, in this video, I want to take a look at the results for the first round of the French legislative elections that happened last night. These are the elections that were called by Emmanuel Macron after he dissolved the French Parliament, the National Assembly, after the poor performance of his party in the European parliamentary elections on June 9th. So this election kind of came out of nowhere. Many people weren't expecting this to happen. There was a possibility of a snap election, but this early was kind of unanticipated. And so we have two rounds. The majority of the seats will be determined in the runoff in the second round in exactly 1 week, next Sunday. However, we do have the results for the first round, and some seats were decided. And if we take a look at the results for each of the parties, we can see that the National Rally and its allies, led by Marine Le Pen and Jordan Bardella, came out on top as expected with 33.2% of the vote, clearly ahead of both the left-wing alliance and Macron's bloc. The New Popular Front, which contains the Greens, the LFI, the French Communists, and the French Socialists. It is a broad left-wing alliance of almost all the left-wing parties in France. They came in second place with 28.1% of the vote. Macron's Ensemble bloc, which makes up of the liberal and centrist parties, came in third place with only 21.3% of the vote, followed by the Les Républicains and the other unaffiliated center-right candidates, which came in fourth with around 10% of the vote. Now, these results are interesting. For the National Rally, this is a slight underperformance of what the polls were showing, but nonetheless, this is in line with what they got in the EU elections. This is their best result ever. This is a clear victory. They are the largest party, and this is going to translate into them being, of course, the largest in many of the constituencies across France. This is a big victory for both Marine Le Pen and Jordan Bardella, a big victory for the party. Nonetheless, this cannot be disputed. This is a victory for the National Rally. They have never won a first round of a presidential election or a legislative election. They have won EU elections before, and of course this is a slight increase from what they got in the EU election with around 31%, but this of course does include some of the Les Républicains candidates that chose to form an alliance with the National Rally, but nonetheless they are the largest bloc. For the New Popular Front, this is a slight increase of what the NUPES alliance got in the 2022 elections. They got around 25% in the first round, so about a 3-point increase for the broad left alliance. However, the difference is this time is that it is less dominated by Jean-Luc Mélenchon's LFI, and there is a higher presence of the Socialist Party, which is of course the party of the former president Hollande, which is actually running for a seat in the parliament as well. So a kind of change in the distribution of seats among the left-wing parties within the New Popular Front. And then the big, of course, number is Emmanuel Macron's bloc coming in third place, only winning 21.3% of the vote. This is a disastrous result for him. This is the sitting French president coming in third place in the legislative elections is bad. This has not happened before. This is not, this is something like this has never happened in modern French politics, where the party of the president not only loses a majority, but has basically no chance to even win one already after the results of the first round. He will qualify, or his candidates rather will qualify in a lot of seats, and they will be able to win, a significant amount of seats, maybe be competing with the left on that number. However, with this result, it's already clear that in a lot of constituencies, the candidates won't even qualify or be a factor involved there. Now, it seems that the conservative Les Républicains did do decently well. This is a slight drop in support from the last election where they got around 12%. However, it's not a total collapse of the party. There was a divide in the leadership. Eric Sotti, the leader, chose to form an alliance with the National Rally, and some of the other leaders of the party chose to kind of remain independent. So there is a heavy divide within Les Républicains, and so the fact that they didn't totally collapse will be seen kind of as a good result for them. And you can see overall the National Rally maybe underperformed by a couple points. The Republicans overperformed by 1 or 2, but overall the results were pretty much in line with what the polls were showing. Now, if we take a look at the map, we can see, of course, the National Rally came in first place in most constituencies, coming in first in 297 of the 577 in the National Assembly, followed by the left-wing New Popular Front, which came in first place in 159, and then in third place, Emmanuel Macron's Ensemble bloc, which came in first place in 70 of the constituencies. The Républicains and the other center-right candidates came in first place in 28, followed by some other regionalist and minor candidates in the others. Now, of course, if we take a look at the map, we can see that the National Rally in the brown here performed well in their strongholds in the north part of the country and in the south along the Mediterranean. But overall, pretty much all of rural France, with some exceptions, went towards the national rally. We also see the Republicans and Emmanuel Macron's party performing well in some of the rural parts, with the Républicains in the south and Emmanuel Macron in the west. But we can see, of course, the divide between the two largest blocs, the National Rally and the New Popular Front, being between, of course, urban and rural centers. Most of France, of course, on this map is going towards the National Rally. But if you take a look at a place like Paris, we can see, of course, the majority of both the city itself, the city proper, and the metropolitan went for the various left-wing parties, the New Popular Front, and of course with some of the more middle-class suburbs going towards Emmanuel Macron's Ensemble or even the Les Républicains. Now, these results, this map, of course, is in line with what the map has been in French politics. However, the National Rally, of course, is very dominant here. In the last legislative elections, they only qualified for, I believe, 210 seats, but in this election, they are qualifying for over around 450. So the National Rally will be contesting nearly twice as many seats as they were in the second round of the last election. Now, if we take a look at the New Popular Front, we can see that they qualified for 414, and then Ensemble is qualifying for 321. Now, it's important to note that in over 300 constituencies, there were more than two candidates that qualified for the second round. According to the French elections, a candidate has to get 12.5% of the registered voters to qualify for the second round, and this means that in elections with high turnout, such as this one, there can be 3 or even 4 candidates that qualify for the second round, so it's not always a runoff just between two candidates. Now, the turnout in this election rose from around 47% in 2022 to around 65%, so there was a huge increase in the number of seats, a number of constituencies where there was expected to be a race, a 3-way or even a 4-way race between the candidates, in most cases being between the National Rally, Ensemble, and the New Popular Front. However, this is not going to be the case because, of course, the candidates have the opportunity to withdraw, and there has been some calls from the leadership of both the New Popular Front and Ensemble to strategically withdraw their candidates to prevent the National Rally from winning. Jean-Luc Mélenchon said that in constituencies where the left-wing candidates of the various parties came in third place, they will withdraw and, of course, support indirectly Ensemble to prevent the National Rally from winning. One of the leaders of Ensemble said kind of the same thing, where in instances where the Ensemble, the liberal candidates, are in third place, they will withdraw to support the Socialists, Communists, or the Greens, however, not LFI. So in a lot of the constituencies where there were supposed to be 3 candidates, where 3 candidates or even 4 qualified, a lot of them will be withdrawing to indirectly oppose the National Rally to prevent them from winning. And this is likely to prevent the party itself from winning an absolute majority, since they are the biggest party. They are, competing in most seats, and of course both Macron's bloc and the left bloc are going to want to prevent Jordan Bardella from becoming prime minister. So there is kind of a strategic movement of both these blocs, since they are both behind, to kind of prevent the National Rally from overly, outright winning a majority and dominating in these elections. Now, of course, this is not going to be the case in every seat. There are some seats where it's going to be between the National Rally, the LFI candidate, and Ensemble, or maybe some candidates do refuse to withdraw. However, in most instances, there will be a race between the two candidates. Now, we can see in this map, there were some seats where candidates won outright in the first round. Of course, when you have a party around 33%, in some of the strongholds, they're going to be reaching 50%, and this was the case for the National Rally in Pas-de-Calais, and then in the north, this is the stronghold of the National Rally traditionally. This is also where Marine Le Pen has her seat. The party won significant amount of seats in the first round. In the last elections in 2022, Marine Le Pen barely lost her or failed to win her seat outright in the first round because of the low turnout. However, this time the National Rally has run around 38, 39 seats in the first round outright. Of course, these seats are places where they won 50% in the first round and didn't have to qualify or didn't have to have a runoff. The left-wing alliance also won a significant amount, around 30 as well. Most of them, of course, being in Paris, the urban center itself, Paris being a stronghold of the left. And we can see that these seats, of course, represent it's very few. There are still over 500 that have to be determined on next Sunday for the runoff. But we do see, some significant amount of seats that were decided already last night. Now, if we take a look at the polls for the second round, the seat distribution, we can see that not much has changed. Most of the exit polls, most of the kind of seat calculations based on the exit polls are saying that the National Rally will come in first place with around 250, 260 seats. They will be the largest party. Of course, the National Rally and their allies will be the largest bloc in the National Assembly. However, most polls have them kind of just at or falling short by around 10 or 20 seats of an absolute majority in the National Assembly. So it is possible for them to reach a majority, in which case Jordan Bardella would become prime minister, but it's also possible that they fall short of around 20 or 30 seats. Now, the big question is then is if the mainstream, or rather the Republican Party, with that win against Eric Sothi, would form an alliance with the National Rally. Jordan Bardella has said that he wants to achieve an absolute majority if he's going to become prime minister, and in case that he doesn't want to. However, it is, of course, possible, it is feasible that Eric Sothi and some of the more pro-National Rally Republicans do form a bond, an alliance with the other Republicans, and maybe have a kind of center, a kind of broad right-wing government, a majority in the National Assembly. However, that is not certain. Of course, many of the Les Républicains leaders that didn't form an alliance with the National Rally are strongly against even cooperating with the National Rally on any sort of level. Macron's bloc is expected to fall even below 100 seats, from around 80 to 120. This is a disaster. This is a fall of around 150 seats from him. In the last election, his party won around 245 seats. They were the largest party. Even though they didn't have a majority, they were, of course, be able to, with that large amount of seats, be able to put forward a prime minister, and with support from some of the center-right or center-left parties, were able to pass legislation. However, this is a huge drop in seats. Macron's party, not only will they lose their majority, not only will they not even be the largest party, they won't even be the largest opposition. So they won't even be able to challenge the National Rally effectively in the way that they were maybe hoping to. So they will be reduced to the third largest bloc in the French Parliament, according to, of course, the polls. The left-wing alliance has kind of a similar result in line with what they got in the last election. There is, of course, a slight increase in the last election. They got around 140, 130, so they are polling at around 160. So we will see that the left-wing alliance will increase by around maybe 20, 30 seats. The Liberal Macron's ensemble bloc will lose around 150, and the National Rally will gain well over 100 seats. So we see, of course, these results, a kind of stable result for the left, a disaster for Macron's bloc, and a victory for the National Rally, even if they don't win, of course, enough seats to put forward a prime minister. This is a huge increase for the National Rally. Just in 2017, they only had 8 seats. In 2012, I believe they only had 2. So for them to be over 200 seats, even reaching the doorstep of 300, is a huge milestone for the party. But of course, these are just the exit polls. These are just the polls, and these are in line with all the surveys and polls we've had over the past several weeks. So not really much has changed. These results for the first round were pretty much in line with what everyone expected, what the polls were showing, and so we will have to wait till next Sunday to see what actually happens. Of course, it could be much different in 2022. The second round results were a lot different than what the first round exit polls were showing for the number of seats. However, we will see, of course, those results. And, of course, once we get those results on next Sunday, we'll do a video on the final results, and I will give that to you guys. But I just wanted to make this video giving an overview of what happened last night for the first round. And, of course, I will do some more videos maybe as we get closer to next Sunday. So I hope everyone liked this video. If you do, please like, share, subscribe. I will see you in the next one. Thank you all for watching.